Alright, greetings everybody and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Final Fantasy VIII character, Seifer, as I knock something on the ground. Damn it. So anyway, that'll be distracting for the rest of this video and not specifically pertinent to anything. Let's start off taking a look at the character's limit burst as we always do. The animation, usually pretty cool, and today Beyblade Limit Burst. That's right. Spin to win. And win? Maybe. So yeah, let's look at that one more time before we talk about the character. Today we are going to be taking a look at him. We're not going to be testing him quite yet, but Wotv calc data is not out yet, so that might make an appearance by the time that we do testing, depending on how Wotv calc is doing. So we're going to jump over here, hopefully quickly, and just grab the first map. This map also where you get this character's weapon. At the moment, I haven't done it yet, so I do not have a weapon, but thankfully the friend unit does. So we're going to jump all the way down here. Now this is, as you can see, the team that we've been testing with. Generally pretty good to see, keep it a little bit consistent. Some changes may happen between now and then that I actually test video, though, based on vision cards and whatnot. But as you can see, this is what Ashen Mont's stats look like with a shoot load of reincarnations. Here is Sephiroth with his shoot load of reincarnations. And here is June. Now let's take a look at how Seifer is. Now Seifer, of course, has his Trust Mastery equipped. The others don't, but doesn't have any runes on, and you can get an idea for what his stats generally. HP wise, feels a little bit softer than what we've been normally seeing, but his offense is pretty damn high for this build comp, given that most of the stuff here is not particularly super. Him, PC is such as they are. Also, you can note up here the job icon for the group that he is with. It is Sword Group B, which is not Knight or Red Mage. It is the Warrior group, which is the same as the new version of Lucio. Taking a look, accuracy is quite high, evasion fairly low, speed is 111. That might be a little bit disingenuous though, as he does have the Army's sandals equipped. Single target and AoE resistance roughly about 25-ish. And resistances are as follows. No curse resistance to speak of as of this moment. That's shouldn't be too terribly surprising. And looking here, sword, shooting resistance are generally high, with strike magic being okay, and piercing resistant generally pretty low. But light piercing, not something I think you have to worry about too terribly. Alright, so let's dig right in. Starting off with Limit Burst. The Limit Burst itself is very straightforward, removes all reinforcements from targets and reduces a certain percentage of single target resistance for 3 turns. Then, after taking, then deals large, extra large damage, just extra large, sorry, and recovers his own AP. It's a solid Limit Burst. There's really nothing to terribly complain about it. I think it's really pretty good. You're getting a lot of value here. The Dispel is quite unique. It doesn't target multiple targets, however, unlike, for instance, Ashen Mont, whose Limit Burst is just so incredibly powerful that it is one of you essentially already run. This is good, but I wonder if this is just, once again, just not quite as peak as we've seen other characters. But let's hold off on making that judgment call till later. Starting off with Dragon, his Dragoon job has move +1, and speed increase for 3 turns, protect effect that increases own attack and defense, reduces physical damage for 3 turns, jump and deal damage, not going to be a particularly big thing. Damage in the box or rectangle AoE changes also, chance of stun effect. After reducing range attack resistance of targets with range, move all enhancement and deal damage medium. Overall, Dragoon Knight doesn't look too amazing. It does have a preemptive counter, but I don't think that's going to be particularly very interesting. It does have a speed and attack resistance and attack and defense penetration, which are, well, honestly, the speed one might be interesting just so he can keep pace with other very, very fast characters currently. As for Nightblade, piercing and shooting resistance ability, small damage with a chance of inflicting stun, reduce AP and absorb all AP. Damage to targets on spinning slash Fury Sword significantly reduces reactivation rate, returns then damage, and reduces healing power for 3 turns. It has counter swing, which is incredibly range, but is what it is. Both of the sub-jobs seem generally fine. I'm not over the moon about them, but they seem okay with some options up in there that might be generally good for him to run, depending on what your goals are. Now let's get into his actual kit. First off, counter, reducing either slash or strike-based damage when receiving damage from them. It's okay. I don't think it's amazing. There are other types of damage, and Gilgamesh is scary, so I rate this as generally okay for where we are. As for support-based skills, increased defense penetration, slashing attack resistance penetration rate gives an effect to reduce damage as the attack range is wider. Bigger AoE attacks, more damage reduction. It's on a support skill, so it can be gotten rid of, and it has no criteria. This is just absolutely solidly. Sorry. Next up, attack and accuracy up and AP consumption down. It's really hard to say no to either of his support skills. Both are just generally really good. It's just a little bit disappointing that we don't see a speed one, seeing that some of the best characters are almost always running a speed buff to make their speed 120 or higher before haste. Still, it is something, and the accuracy is kind of interesting. Something else we're going to talk about, but there you go. Now, sub part of his main job. 2 abilities that are actually kind of tempting. First off, this one uses a certain percentage of defense of targets within range and deals medium damage. It's defense shred. I will always speak positively of these kind of abilities because I quite like them, but some characters not running the highest amount of defense right now, and again, there are mages out there. I think this is, well, it doesn't matter too much, but I don't know. I feel like this ability is really nice to have if defense ever goes crazy, but for now, I'm just not super impressed. But it is a big AoE and it has some flexibility. This one, more interesting, gives an effect that reduces physical damage to targets within range. 3 turns has a chance of slowing down the speed at which he accumulates. So it's an AoE. It hits opponents that messes with the physical damage properties of those characters and has a chance of slow. Slow is interesting. Not amazing, but it is interesting. This is one of the abilities that while we're looking at it, it's nice for him to have. This character just doesn't seem like he's going to be high faith, so I wonder what the odds are of him actually casting. If it isn't particularly good, it's probably not going to be relevant anyway. Alright, let's talk about the next thing. Sorry, there was food being pulled in the background. Cat of some white fluffy variety. Alright, now we get into his main job. Starting off with this attack. Damage to the target, reducing activation rate by a great amount for turns. Pretty nice, but very short range. Unlikely to be too crazy, but you know, in a pinch, might do some actual. This ability, pretty cool. Increased attack for 4 turns. AP recovery effect medium as well. So, battle style effect for 4 turns. Don't think anybody will say no to that. Gives an effect that reduces target's healing power for 3 turns when attack hits. Pretty good for dealing with Luciel or just the amount of healing that's out there, because it works on essentially all of his abilities, be it his limit burst or whatever, and you're almost always capped. Seems good. Seems really good. Next up, this one. Wall of Text ability, we've talked about it before. Effect that is basically an aura effect around him, reducing damage taken the wider the attack. Also gives an effect that reduces target's debuff resistance, returns when an attack hits, and human resistance for 4 turns, creates a barrier to damage. Still not really much detail about that, but it's there. Also, when his HP drops below 50%, he will get a medium heal, given that he actually has some extra healing power sources. It should be a pretty big heal, and it should keep going quite nicely, which is good, as this character does not have any style of surviving a fatal hit or re-raise, which is one of the biggest glaring things in his kit. Not only that, he doesn't have a really good way of dealing with either of those status effects, which is problematic since, again, characters are... Alright, next ability. After removing all of your own weaknesses, deal 2 consecutive damage, extra large to a target. Pretty nice range on this. It is single target, so it works well with what he's doing with his limit burst. It has a little bit of chaining properties, and it removes debuffs on yourself. Kind of nice. I like it. It's interesting. I'm curious if his AI prioritizes it, but this is really great. And next up, this ability, which... Oh, sorry, I'm going the wrong direction. This one, there we go. Music change. Alright. Reduces damage after a certain percentage of AoE resist targets within range for 3 turns, and reduces healing power for 3 turns. So a second source of healing power down, which, depending on your hatred for Luciel / Sal's too, might be something that you kind of want to run, and is generally good, as I do believe healing power down from different sources of stack. Might need a correction on that, but should be pretty good for dealing with also the amount of healing power that is available. Alright, and oh yes, from EX Enhancement, this ability that we talked about earlier also gives him a absorb part of the damage dealt as HP healing for himself. Really kind of depends on his own ability, so we'll see if that's actually good enough. The other one, which I believe I misspoke about this one, this is the one that does get into his EX cancel of re-raise, but I think the issue that I wanted to highlight more just slightly before was the fact that he doesn't have any re-raise himself or Immortal Spirit, so you might be looking at a Trust Mastery to get that, but he also doesn't have any particular haste for himself, which means that this character, being quite defensive, it's going to be pretty slow and potentially behind other characters, at least preemptive of Alright. And his last ability is pretty vanilla, actually, if you want to get down to it. Damage large to targets within range, and it sure hit. So, let's talk about my overall preview of Seifer thoughts. First off, I think this character is generally pretty good. He is coming after, the power increase, so that's always going to just make him stronger than out there. His stats look generally really good and overall positive. I think his kit is very well rounded for having a lot of different stuff in it that works a little bit different. The Trust Mastery needed to really support this character to be really great is a little bit on the fence. I feel like some kind of re-raise for himself or some kind of support character is needed. Maybe he's designed to work in tandem with Luciel too and be hard to kill, but I also think that there's a chance that this character could fall flat when put up against the highest tier characters out there. As for his Trust Mastery, increase reaction prevention rate for yourself and ally for 4 turns gives an effect that reduces physical damage of the target for 3 turns when an attack hits. This ability, you cast it on someone else, it also casts on himself. Only gets 1 use, which is always a little bit of a detriment for multi-battles where you're going to character to operate twice, or a character who has this equipped. I don't know, this is nice to have 4 turns if your reactions are a problem, but I feel like there are other good sources of reaction prevention rate already. I'm not too terribly worried about that. Honestly, my overall thoughts of Seifer is that he's definitively up there with some of the best characters out there, but it may be just virtue of when he came out. While I don't bear any ill will to him or his kit, I also can't feel like I should rush out and get this character. Like, yes, he looks absolutely solid, but he also doesn't seem quite as good as the Wotv characters that are recently. And again, preemptive to testing, I really want to state that I think this guy is solid, and but not any kind of Sephiroth level of you have to get him. Either way, we'll keep an eye on it and see and do our own testing and report back on other testing and give you the full picture just a little bit later. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Watching.